Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today's video is a full road trip from Riyadh to Makkah by car. This is not just a route explanation taken from Google Maps, and this is a realistic road journey including prayer stops, food breaks, fuel planning, and the mental and spiritual preparation that naturally comes with traveling toward Makkah. If you are planning to do this drive, especially for Umrah, this video is meant to help you feel prepared and calm instead of rushed or confused along the way. In this video, I'll walk you through the journey step by step, exactly how it unfolds on the road. I'll talk about the total distance from Riyadh to Makkah, the main highway route and what driving on it actually feels like, how to think about stops for namaz without stress, and most importantly, which Miqat is commonly used when traveling from Riyadh and how to approach it in a calm and correct way. The purpose of this video is clarity, so that you're not making last-minute decisions while already tired on the road. Let's start with the basics. The road distance from Riyadh to Makkah is roughly between 880 to 900 kilometers, depending on your exact starting point in Riyadh and your final destination inside Makkah. Online maps often show that this drive takes around 8 to 9 hours, but that is only the non-stop driving time. In reality, once you include proper stops for prayer, food, fuel, and rest, the journey usually takes closer to 9.5 to 11 hours. So the best mindset is to treat this as a full-day road journey rather than a quick drive, because that mindset alone removes a lot of pressure. Now let's talk briefly about the route itself. The main road used for this journey is Highway 40, which connects Riyadh to the western region of Saudi Arabia. It is a long and well-developed highway with wide lanes, clear signage, and regular access to fuel stations, rest areas, and mosques along the way. You are not driving through complete isolation, but because the road is long and mostly straight, planning your stops properly makes a big difference in how comfortable the journey feels. One important mindset shift for this road trip is this: don't wait until you absolutely need to stop. Plan to stop intentionally. A comfortable rhythm for this journey usually includes a short stop early on, one proper stop in the middle for food and prayer, another lighter stop as you get closer to the Taif side, and then the Miqat stop, which is the most important point of the entire journey. Thinking this way keeps the trip calm and prevents rushing later when energy is already low. Now, one of the most important parts of traveling to Makkah by road is the Miqat. For people coming from the Riyadh or Najd direction, the commonly used Miqat is Qarn al-Manazil, also known as As-Sail al-Kabir. This is not something to leave for the last minute. Later in this video, I'll explain where it is, how people usually prepare for it, and how to approach the Miqat without confusion or pressure. For now, let's continue the journey and start with the first stretch of the road as we leave Riyadh. When discussing the road journey from Riyadh to Makkah, the route itself deserves careful explanation because it is often oversimplified. Many people describe this journey as a straight drive on one highway, but in reality this route has its own rhythm, rules, and demands that change as the kilometers pass. Understanding the route in advance is one of the most important factors in having a calm, controlled, and safe journey. The primary and most commonly used route from Riyadh to Makkah is Highway 40. This highway runs in an east-west direction across Saudi Arabia and connects Riyadh with the western region, passing toward Taif and continuing in the direction of Makkah. From the moment you leave Riyadh and fully merge onto Highway 40, the driving environment changes noticeably. Urban surroundings gradually disappear, exits become less frequent, and the road opens into long-distance highway conditions designed for sustained travel rather than short city commutes. Highway 40 is built for efficiency. It has wide lanes, long straight stretches, and clear road markings. These features make driving feel smooth and controlled, but they also create a situation where attention must be managed deliberately. Because the road does not demand constant steering corrections, it can easily lead to reduced alertness if discipline is not maintained. This is one of the defining characteristics of this route. It feels easy, but it must not be underestimated. One of the most important elements of understanding this route is knowing how speed limits work along Highway 40. Speed limits are not uniform throughout the journey. In many open highway sections, the posted speed limit for light vehicles is 140 kilometers per hour. In other sections, particularly closer to exits, junctions, towns, or areas with higher traffic density, the speed limit reduces to 120 kilometers per hour or lower. Temporary reductions also occur near roadworks or maintenance zones. These limits are clearly displayed on roadside signs and electronic boards, and they must always be followed exactly as posted. Speed enforcement on this route is handled through the Saher traffic monitoring system, which operates throughout Saudi Arabia. Saher cameras are positioned along Highway 40 at various intervals. These cameras do not flash or give visible warnings. Speed violations are recorded automatically, and fines are typically issued later through official channels. Because of this, sudden braking near suspected camera locations is unsafe and often leads to rear-end collisions. The correct approach is to maintain a consistent speed within the posted limit at all times, rather than reacting suddenly. Another important detail about Saher enforcement is that speed limits can change quickly over distance. A section allowing 140 kilometers per hour may transition to 120 kilometers per hour within a short span, especially near junctions or service exits. These changes are always signposted, but they require attention. Relying on memory instead of signage is one of the most common mistakes on long highway drives. On this route, signs always override assumptions. Traffic composition along Highway 40 is mixed. In addition to private vehicles, there is a significant presence of heavy trucks, intercity buses, and commercial transport. Heavy vehicles typically remain in the right lanes, but they can slow down considerably on inclines or during strong winds. Overtaking must be done with patience and sufficient distance. Because of the long straight stretches, vehicles approaching from behind may be traveling at high speeds, and misjudging closing distance is a real risk. Lane discipline is critical, and unnecessary lane changes should be avoided. As the journey progresses westward, the spacing between exits increases. Early sections after Riyadh have more frequent service access, but mid-route segments may have longer gaps between major fuel stations or rest areas. This is why route awareness matters. Fuel planning should always be proactive, and stops should be planned intentionally rather than reactively. The road supports long-distance travel well, but it expects the traveler to manage resources intelligently. Weather and environmental conditions also influence how the route behaves. During daytime, heat and sun glare can reduce visual clarity, especially over long straight stretches, where heat shimmer may distort distance perception. At night, cooler temperatures may make driving more comfortable, but reduced visibility and increased risk of drowsiness become factors. Some sections of Highway 40 are well lit, while others rely primarily on vehicle headlights and reflective lane markings. Adjusting driving behavior to lighting conditions is essential. Wind exposure is another subtle but important feature of this route. Certain open areas experience crosswinds, particularly where there is little natural or structural shielding. At higher speeds, this can affect vehicle stability slightly. Maintaining a steady steering input and avoiding abrupt corrections helps manage this smoothly. Service infrastructure along Highway 40 is designed to support long-distance travel, but not all service points are equal. Larger fuel stations often include mosques, restrooms, food outlets, and shaded parking. Smaller stations may offer only fuel and limited facilities. From a route overview perspective, the key understanding is that services exist regularly, but quality and capacity vary. Missing a planned stop does not mean immediate danger, but it may require driving longer than expected before reaching a comparable facility. Traffic density on this route changes based on time and season. Weekends, Umrah seasons, and public holidays significantly increase traffic volume, particularly in segments closer to Makkah. Traffic often moves in waves, with long free-flowing sections followed by sudden congestion near exits, service areas, or junctions. Recognizing this pattern helps manage expectations and reduces frustration. As you approach the Taif side of the route, subtle changes occur. Road signage begins referencing Taif and Makkah more frequently, and traffic behavior shifts. This area often marks a psychological transition point, where fatigue may already be present but the journey is not yet complete. Maintaining discipline here is especially important, as traffic becomes denser and more variable. Emergency awareness is a critical part of understanding this route. Highway 40 is generally safe, but accidents and breakdowns can happen on any long highway. In the event of an emergency, the first priority is safety. If a vehicle becomes disabled, it should be moved completely onto the shoulder if possible, and hazard lights must be activated immediately. Standing near active lanes is extremely dangerous due to high vehicle speeds. Saudi Arabia uses a unified emergency number, 911. This number connects to traffic police, medical services, and civil defense. While mobile coverage along Highway 40 is generally good, some remote stretches may have weaker signal strength. Remaining calm, visible, and stationary in a safe location improves response effectiveness. In the event of an accident, it is important not to block traffic unnecessarily. Minor incidents should be moved off the roadway if possible, while serious accidents should be secured with hazard lights and warning indicators if available. Never attempt repairs in unsafe conditions or in active lanes. Fatigue management is closely tied to route understanding. The long, straight nature of Highway 40 can make fatigue appear slowly. Early signs include slower reactions, missed signage, wandering focus, and heavy eyelids. These are not minor issues. They are clear signals to stop. Short breaks of even 10 minutes can significantly restore alertness. Pushing forward while fatigued is one of the most common causes of serious highway accidents. Another important aspect of this route is mental pacing. Treating the journey as a sequence of manageable segments rather than one long drive improves focus and reduces stress. Highway 40 does not challenge with complex navigation, but it tests patience, endurance, and discipline over time. As the route continues toward the western region, it gradually transitions from purely highway travel to an area where preparation for the next phase becomes important. Traffic density increases, signage becomes more frequent, and stop frequency naturally rises. This transition signals that the journey is entering its final stages, but it does not mean attention can relax. One of the most important aspects of driving from Riyadh to Makkah by road is understanding how speed limits actually work on Saudi highways and how the Saher traffic system enforces them. This route is long, open, and designed for high-speed travel, which makes speed discipline not just a legal requirement, but a safety necessity. Many accidents on long highways do not happen because the road is difficult, but because speed is mismanaged over time. On the Riyadh to Makkah route, speed limits are clearly defined and strictly enforced. The most common posted speed limits you will encounter are 120 km per hour and 140 km per hour for light vehicles. These limits are not random. They are set based on road design, traffic density, proximity to exits, and safety considerations. Open stretches of Highway 40 often allow 140 km per hour, while areas closer to junctions, towns, service exits, or high traffic zones are usually limited to 120 km per hour or lower. It is critical to understand that speed limits on this route are segment-based, not fixed for the entire journey. A section allowing 140 km per hour can change to 120 km per hour within a short distance, and sometimes even lower near construction zones or temporary diversions. These changes are always communicated through roadside signs and electronic boards. The posted sign is the only correct reference. Memory, assumptions, or previous experience should never override what is currently displayed on the road. Speed enforcement on this route is handled by the Saher traffic system, which is the official automated traffic monitoring system used throughout Saudi Arabia. Saher cameras are installed along Highway 40 at various intervals and cover both fixed locations and mobile enforcement zones. One of the most important things to know about Saher is that it operates silently. There is no flash, no audible alert, and often no visible indication that a violation has been recorded. Many people only realize they were fined days later. Because Saher operates continuously, sudden braking when you think a camera is nearby is both unsafe and unnecessary. Sudden braking at high speeds is one of the leading causes of rear-end collisions on Saudi highways. The correct and safe approach is to maintain a consistent speed within the posted limit at all times, rather than adjusting speed abruptly based on camera guesses. Another common misunderstanding is that driving slightly above the limit is acceptable on open highways. This is incorrect. Saher does not operate on tolerance assumptions that drivers can rely on. Enforcement thresholds are system-controlled and not visible to the public. The safest assumption is that any speed above the posted limit can be recorded. This applies equally to 120 km per hour zones and 140 km per hour zones. Speed limits also differ by vehicle type. While light private vehicles may be allowed up to 140 km per hour in certain sections, heavy vehicles such as trucks and buses are subject to lower limits. This difference in allowed speed is one reason lane discipline becomes critical. Faster moving vehicles should remain in left lanes, while slower moving vehicles stay to the right. However, this does not mean left lanes are fast lanes without limits. The same posted speed applies to all lanes. As the journey progresses, speed management becomes more important due to fatigue. Driving at the maximum allowed speed for extended periods increases mental load and reaction time fatigue. While the vehicle may feel stable, the driver's cognitive processing slows over time. This is why many experienced long-distance drivers intentionally cruise slightly below the maximum limit, especially during the middle and later segments of the journey. Speed limits are also affected by environmental conditions. During sandstorms, heavy rain, or reduced visibility, speed limits may be temporarily reduced. Electronic signs are often used to communicate these changes. Ignoring temporary reductions is risky and heavily penalized. Reduced visibility combined with high speed dramatically increases stopping distance and collision severity. Another aspect of speed discipline on this route is managing overtaking behavior. Because Highway 40 has long straight stretches, overtaking may appear easy. However, vehicles approaching from behind may be traveling at significantly higher speeds, especially in 140 km per hour zones. Misjudging closing speed is a frequent cause of near misses and accidents. Overtakes should be planned with full awareness of traffic behind and completed smoothly without lingering in passing lanes. Night driving introduces additional speed-related risks. Reduced visibility, limited depth perception, and fatigue all increase the danger of high-speed driving at night. While traffic may be lighter, the consequences of mistakes are more severe. Maintaining speed closer to the lower end of the allowed range improves reaction time and reduces risk. Daytime driving presents its own challenges. Heat, glare, and visual fatigue can reduce focus over long distances. Heat shimmer on asphalt can distort distance perception, making vehicles appear farther away than they are. Maintaining a conservative speed helps compensate for these visual effects. One of the most overlooked elements of speed discipline is following distance. At 120 km per hour or 140 km per hour, stopping distance increases dramatically. Tailgating at highway speeds leaves no margin for unexpected events such as sudden braking, debris on the road, or lane changes by other vehicles. Maintaining a safe following distance is just as important as obeying speed limits. Speed cameras are not limited to obvious locations. Saher enforcement includes fixed cameras, mobile units, and enforcement near exits and service roads. Cameras may also be placed in areas where speed limits change, specifically to enforce compliance during transitions. This is why attention to signage is critical at all times, not just in open stretches. In addition to speed enforcement, Saher also monitors other violations such as unsafe lane changes and tailgating in some areas. While speed is the most commonly discussed aspect, overall driving behavior matters. Smooth, predictable driving reduces both risk and enforcement issues. If a speed violation occurs, fines are typically issued electronically and linked to vehicle registration. There is no roadside warning or immediate notification. This delayed feedback can make it harder to associate behavior with consequences, which is why disciplined driving from the start is the best approach. Managing speed correctly also plays a role in emergency response. In the event of an accident ahead, reduced speed provides more time to react and avoid secondary collisions. Highway accidents often escalate because approaching vehicles are traveling too fast to respond safely. Another factor to consider is fatigue-induced speed creep. Over long drives, it is common for speed to gradually increase without conscious awareness, especially on straight roads. Regularly checking the speedometer and using cruise control responsibly can help maintain consistent speed. However, cruise control should be disengaged in heavy traffic, near exits, or in variable conditions. Speed discipline also affects fuel consumption. Driving consistently at high speeds significantly increases fuel usage, which can disrupt planned stops and add unnecessary stress. Maintaining a steady, moderate speed improves fuel efficiency and reduces the frequency of refueling. As the route approaches more populated areas closer to Makkah, speed limits tend to reduce and enforcement becomes denser. Traffic density increases, and driving behavior becomes less predictable. This is not the time to rush. Reducing speed and increasing following distance improves safety and smooths traffic flow. Speed on this journey is not about how fast the road allows you to go. It is about how long you must remain focused, alert, and in control. Respecting speed limits is not a restriction. It is a tool that protects you over hundreds of kilometers. Those who understand this complete the journey calmly and safely. Those who ignore it often pay the price later, either through enforcement or risk. Fuel stations, stop strategy, and brake planning. One of the most underestimated aspects of the Riyadh to Makkah road journey is fuel and stop planning. Many people assume that because this is a major highway, fuel stations will always be available exactly when needed. While Highway 40 is well supported, the distance between high-quality service areas can be longer than expected, especially in the middle segments of the route. Understanding how to plan fuel stops properly removes stress, reduces risk, and keeps the journey smooth and controlled. The total distance of approximately 880 to 900 kilometers means that fuel management is not something to think about casually. Even vehicles with good fuel efficiency require multiple refueling opportunities depending on tank size and driving speed. The correct mindset is not drive until fuel is low, but rather refuel before fuel becomes a concern. This proactive approach is essential on long Saudi highways. A practical and widely used rule on this route is to refuel when the fuel gauge reaches half tank. This rule provides a buffer that protects against unexpected delays, missed exits, crowded stations, or reduced availability at smaller fuel stops. Waiting until the fuel warning light appears is risky, especially in mid-route segments where the next major station may be many kilometers away. Fuel stations along Highway 40 vary significantly in size, cleanliness, and available facilities. Broadly, they fall into two categories: major service stations and smaller roadside fuel points. Major stations are usually located near known exits or regional junctions and often include multiple fuel pumps, convenience stores, restrooms, prayer areas, and food outlets. Smaller stations may offer only fuel and very basic facilities. From a planning perspective, major service stations are always the preferred choice for longer stops. They allow refueling, rest, and basic needs to be handled in one stop rather than requiring multiple smaller stops later. Smaller stations are useful as backup options, but relying on them for extended breaks is not ideal. Another important factor is station congestion. During peak travel times such as weekends, Umrah seasons, or public holidays, popular fuel stations can become crowded. Queues for fuel pumps, restrooms, or food outlets can significantly increase stop duration. This is why stopping earlier, before fuel becomes low, often saves time overall. A slightly earlier stop at a quieter station is usually faster than a later stop at a crowded one. Stop duration matters as much as stop location. On a long drive, frequent long stops can extend total travel time significantly. The goal is not to eliminate stops, but to make them intentional and efficient. A well-planned stop typically lasts 10 to 20 minutes for fuel and rest, and 25 to 40 minutes for a combined fuel, food, and prayer stop. Stops longer than this often lead to loss of momentum and increased fatigue later. Highway 40 supports a natural stop rhythm due to its length. Early in the journey, stops may be closer together, while mid-route segments require longer gaps between stops. This is why early fuel management is important. Filling up early provides flexibility later when stations are farther apart. Restroom quality is another factor that influences stop selection. Major service stations generally maintain cleaner facilities and have higher capacity, which is especially important during busy travel periods. Smaller stations may be functional but can become overwhelmed quickly. Choosing the right station reduces stress and improves overall comfort. Prayer planning is closely linked to stop strategy. While mosques are present at many major service stations, not every fuel stop includes a proper prayer area. Understanding that not all stations are equal helps prevent last-minute searching for prayer facilities. Planning stops around known service areas with mosques allows prayer to be performed calmly rather than rushed. Food availability along the route also varies. Some major stations offer fast food chains, local restaurants, or large convenience stores, while others may have only basic snacks. Depending on personal preference, it may be useful to treat food stops separately from fuel-only stops. Combining fuel and food into one stop is efficient, but only if the station supports both comfortably. Hydration management is another reason stops are necessary. Long highway driving in Saudi Arabia, especially during daytime, increases dehydration risk even inside air-conditioned vehicles. Short stops to hydrate and stretch improve alertness and reduce fatigue. Skipping hydration to avoid stops often backfires later. Another critical aspect of stop planning is fatigue recognition. Fatigue does not always align with fuel needs. It is possible to have sufficient fuel but reduced alertness. In such cases, stopping for rest takes priority over fuel strategy. Short breaks of 10 minutes can significantly improve concentration, even without refueling. Emergency considerations also influence stop planning. Knowing that a major station is nearby provides peace of mind. In the event of minor vehicle issues such as low tire pressure warnings or overheating concerns, a large service station is a safer place to assess the situation than a roadside shoulder. Night travel changes stop dynamics. At night, some smaller stations may have limited staffing or reduced services. Major stations remain more reliable during late hours. Planning fuel stops at well-lit, well-populated stations improves safety and comfort. Weather conditions also play a role. During sandstorms or extreme heat, stops may take longer as visibility or comfort is reduced. Planning additional buffer time during such conditions prevents rushed decisions. One common mistake on this route is over-reliance on navigation apps for fuel planning. While navigation can show nearby stations, it does not indicate station size, congestion, or facility quality. Visual observation of signage and experience-based judgment are still important. Large, well-marked service areas are usually the safest choice. Another mistake is stacking multiple needs into one late stop. Arriving at a station with low fuel, hunger, fatigue, and prayer time approaching creates pressure and reduces decision quality. Separating needs across the planned stops improves flow and reduces stress. Fuel efficiency is also influenced by driving behavior. Sustained high speeds increase fuel consumption significantly. Maintaining a steady speed within limits improves fuel range and reduces stop frequency. This ties fuel strategy directly to speed discipline discussed earlier. As the journey progresses toward the western region, fuel station density may increase again, but traffic congestion also rises. Stops near this phase should be shorter and more focused to avoid delays. Long, relaxed stops are better suited earlier in the journey when traffic is lighter. Mental pacing is important. Treating fuel stops as checkpoints rather than interruptions changes how the journey feels. Each stop becomes a reset point rather than a delay. This mindset reduces frustration and improves focus. From a safety perspective, never attempt to stretch fuel beyond comfortable margins. Running low on fuel on a high-speed highway introduces unnecessary risk. Even if the vehicle is capable of extended range, environmental factors, traffic delays, or detours can reduce that range unexpectedly. Stops are not a weakness in long-distance travel, they are a strength when used correctly. Each planned stop supports alertness, safety, and steady progress. Those who plan stops rarely feel rushed or fatigued. Those who ignore stop strategy often find themselves reacting under pressure later in the journey. Emergency handling, accidents, and safety protocol, Riyadh to Makkah road. Emergency awareness is a critical part of driving long distances on Saudi highways, and on the Riyadh to Makkah route, it should never be treated as an afterthought. Highway 40 is generally safe, well maintained, and monitored, but the length of the journey, the high speeds involved, and the mix of vehicle types mean that incidents can and do occur. Understanding how to respond correctly in emergencies reduces risk, prevents secondary accidents, and can save lives. The first principle of emergency handling on this route is prevention through awareness. Many highway emergencies begin as small issues that escalate due to delayed response or poor decisions. Fatigue, distraction, speeding, tailgating, and poor lane discipline are common contributing factors. Staying alert and conservative in behavior reduces the likelihood of ever needing emergency intervention. Despite best efforts, emergencies can still happen. These may include vehicle breakdowns, tire blowouts, overheating, sudden mechanical failure, road debris, or traffic accidents involving other vehicles. Each situation requires a calm, structured response. If a vehicle begins to show warning signs such as dashboard alerts, unusual noises, loss of power, vibration, or overheating, the correct action is to reduce speed gradually and assess the situation. Sudden braking or abrupt lane changes at highway speeds are dangerous. Signal early, move toward the right lane, and prepare to exit the roadway safely if possible. If stopping is necessary, the vehicle should be moved completely onto the shoulder. On Saudi highways, shoulders are designed for emergency use, but they are not safe places to linger unnecessarily. Once stopped, hazard lights must be activated immediately. Visibility is critical, especially on high-speed roads where approaching vehicles may be traveling at 120 km per hour or 140 km per hour. One of the most important safety rules is this: never stand close to active lanes. At highway speeds, even a small deviation by a passing vehicle can have fatal consequences. If it is safe to do so, remain inside the vehicle with seatbelt fastened, especially if traffic is heavy or visibility is low. Exiting the vehicle should only be done when absolutely necessary and when conditions allow it safely. In the event of a breakdown, attempting roadside repairs on Highway 40 is strongly discouraged unless the issue is minor and can be resolved quickly without exposure to traffic. Changing a tire, checking fluids, or inspecting engine components on the shoulder carries significant risk. If professional assistance is required, it is better to wait in a safe position. Saudi Arabia operates a unified emergency number, 911. This number connects to traffic police, ambulance services, and civil defense. In an emergency situation, calling 911 should be done as soon as the vehicle is safely positioned. When calling, clearly state the location, direction of travel, and nature of the emergency. Highway markers, exit numbers, or nearby signage can help identify location accurately. Mobile network coverage along Highway 40 is generally good, but there may be stretches where signal strength is weaker. This is another reason why remaining visible and stationary in a safe location is important. Emergency services regularly patrol major highways, and visible hazard lights increase the chance of timely assistance. If an accident occurs involving your vehicle or nearby traffic, the response depends on severity. In the case of a minor accident where vehicles are still drivable and there are no injuries, the correct approach is to move vehicles off the roadway if possible. Blocking active lanes creates additional risk and may cause secondary collisions. Hazard lights should be used and authorities contacted as required. In the case of a serious accident where vehicles cannot be moved or injuries are present, the priority is safety and medical assistance. Do not attempt to move injured persons unless there is immediate danger, such as fire. Activate hazard lights, maintain distance from traffic, and contact emergency services immediately via 911. Secondary accidents are a major risk on high-speed highways. These occur when approaching vehicles fail to slow down or notice an incident ahead. For this reason, early visibility is critical. Hazard lights, warning triangles if available, and positioning the vehicle well off the roadway reduce risk. Never assume approaching drivers will react correctly or in time. Fire risk while where must also be considered. If smoke or flames are visible, exit the vehicle immediately if it is safe to do so, and move away from traffic and the vehicle itself. Fire extinguishers, if available, should only be used when the fire is small and controllable. Personal safety always takes priority over property. Weather-related emergencies require additional caution. During sandstorms, visibility can drop suddenly. In such conditions, reducing speed immediately is essential. If visibility becomes extremely poor, it may be safer to pull over to the shoulder, activate hazard lights, and wait until conditions improve. Driving at high speed in low visibility is extremely dangerous. Rain is less common but can occur. Wet roads increase stopping distance and reduce tire grip. In heavy rain, speed should be reduced significantly, even if posted limits remain unchanged. Standing water can cause hydroplaning at highway speeds. Another important aspect of emergency handling is dealing with road debris or unexpected obstacles. Debris such as tire fragments, cargo, or animals may appear suddenly. Swerving sharply at high speed is often more dangerous than controlled braking. Assess the situation quickly, brake smoothly if possible, and avoid abrupt maneuvers that could lead to loss of control. Breakdowns and accidents can also affect mental state. Stress, anxiety, and adrenaline can impair judgment. Taking a moment to breathe and think before acting helps avoid mistakes. Panic leads to poor decisions, while calm assessment improves outcomes. Nighttime emergencies present additional challenges. Reduced visibility makes it harder for other drivers to see stopped vehicles. This makes hazard lights and reflective elements even more important. Well-lit service stations or exits are preferable locations for stopping whenever possible. It is also important to understand that help may take time. Even on major highways, emergency response is not instantaneous. Remaining patient, visible, and safe increases the effectiveness of response efforts. Leaving the vehicle to seek help on foot is generally unsafe and not recommended. Another overlooked emergency scenario is medical issues. Long drives, dehydration, and fatigue can contribute to sudden health problems. If symptoms such as dizziness, chest pain, or severe discomfort occur, the journey should be paused immediately. Stopping at a safe location and contacting emergency services is the correct response. Continuing to drive while unwell increases risk to everyone on the road. Preventive measures significantly reduce emergency likelihood. Regular vehicle maintenance before the trip, including tire pressure, coolant levels, and brake condition, lowers breakdown risk. Carrying basic safety items such as reflective triangles, water, and a charged mobile phone improves readiness. Mental preparation is equally important. Accepting that emergencies are possible but manageable helps maintain composure if something occurs. Knowing what to do in advance prevents hesitation and confusion. As the journey progresses toward Makkah, traffic density increases and reaction time becomes more critical. Emergencies in congested areas require extra caution, as sudden stops can ripple through traffic quickly. Maintaining safe following distance and reduced speed in these areas lowers accident severity. Miqat approach, preparation, and correct procedure. Riyadh to Makkah Road. The Miqat is the most important spiritual checkpoint on the road journey from Riyadh to Makkah, and it must be approached with clarity and preparation. Many people understand the concept of Miqat in theory, but confusion often arises in practice, especially during long road journeys where fatigue, traffic, and timing all come into play. Understanding the Miqat properly before reaching it removes stress and allows the transition into Ihram to happen calmly and correctly. For those traveling from Riyadh and the Najd region by road, the designated Miqat is Qarn al-Manazil, which is commonly associated with As-Sail al-Kabir. This is not a choice or preference, it is the fixed Miqat for this direction. Crossing this boundary without Ihram when intending Umrah or Hajj is not permitted, which is why preparation before reaching this point is essential. Geographically, Qarn al-Manazil is located on the approach toward the western region, near the Taif side, approximately 80 kilometers northeast of Makkah and around 35 kilometers north of Taif. On the road, it does not suddenly appear without warning. There are signs and indicators, and the area is well known among travelers. However, relying on last-minute recognition is not advisable. The correct approach is to mentally prepare well before reaching this area. Preparation for Miqat begins long before arrival. One of the most important decisions is when to change into Ihram. There are generally two common approaches: changing into Ihram before starting the journey from Riyadh, or changing into Ihram at the Miqat itself. Both approaches are valid, but each requires planning. Changing into Ihram earlier provides certainty that the Miqat will not be crossed unintentionally. However, remaining in Ihram for many hours on a long road journey can be physically demanding. Changing at the Miqat allows for greater comfort during the drive, but requires alertness and timing to ensure the Miqat is not crossed without Ihram. For those choosing to change at the Miqat, the key is advance readiness. Ihram garments, footwear, and personal items should be easily accessible before reaching the Miqat area. Waiting until arrival to search for items creates unnecessary pressure. The Miqat should be treated as a calm stop, not a rushed interruption. As the journey approaches the Taif side, attention should increase. This is the phase where the mental focus begins shifting from pure travel to worship. Road signs referencing Taif, Makkah, and Miqat areas become more frequent. This is a reminder that the next stop is not just another break, but a mandatory religious boundary. Upon reaching the Miqat area of Qarn al-Manazil or As-Sail al-Kabir, the correct approach is to stop fully and calmly. Parking areas are available, and there is a mosque specifically designated for Miqat use. This mosque serves travelers coming from multiple directions and is structured to handle pilgrims preparing for Ihram. The sequence at the Miqat should be unhurried. Rushing through this process leads to mistakes and uncertainty. The correct order begins with wudu, ensuring cleanliness and readiness. Once wudu is completed, Ihram garments should be worn correctly. For men, this involves the two unstitched white garments. For women, modest regular clothing that meets Ihram requirements. After wearing Ihram, it is recommended to pray 2 rak'ah if it is not a prohibited prayer time. This prayer is not an Ihram prayer itself, but a general voluntary prayer before making intention. Understanding this distinction removes confusion. The intention for Umrah is made after preparation, not simply by wearing Ihram. The niyyah, or intention, for Umrah is the defining moment. This intention should be made consciously, clearly, and without haste. It can be made verbally or in the heart. Once the intention is made, the state of Ihram officially begins. From this moment onward, Ihram rules apply fully. Immediately after intention, Talbiyah should begin. This marks the verbal declaration of entering Ihram. Talbiyah should be recited consistently after this point, especially during travel, until reaching the appropriate stage in Makkah. This recitation reinforces the spiritual transition from travel to worship. One of the most common mistakes at Miqat is uncertainty about whether intention was made correctly. This usually happens when the process is rushed or mentally distracted. Taking a moment of stillness before making intention helps ensure clarity. The Miqat is not a checkpoint to be rushed through. It is a boundary that deserves attention and respect. Another common concern is prayer timing at Miqat. If a compulsory prayer time coincides with arrival, that prayer can be performed at the Miqat mosque. If not, voluntary prayer can still be performed unless it is a prohibited time. The key principle is not to delay intention unnecessarily once the Miqat is reached. The facilities at As-Sail Al-Kabir are designed for pilgrims, but during peak seasons, they can become crowded. This is another reason why mental preparation matters. Crowds should not cause panic or haste. There is no requirement to compete or rush. Completing the process correctly is more important than speed. After completing Ihram and intention, it is essential to ensure that nothing contradicts Ihram rules. This includes checking clothing, footwear, and personal items. Any adjustments should be done calmly before leaving the Miqat area. Once back on the road, attention should return briefly to driving while maintaining awareness of Ihram state. Leaving the Miqat marks a clear transition in the journey. Traffic density often increases after this point, and road behavior becomes more variable. This is not only due to geography but also because many travelers are now pilgrims. Patience and calmness become even more important. Another important point to understand is that there is no second chance at Miqat. Once the boundary is crossed, returning to fix mistakes is not always practical. This is why preparation, awareness, and deliberate action are emphasized so strongly. Some travelers worry excessively about making mistakes at Miqat. This anxiety often comes from lack of clarity. The Miqat process is straightforward when broken into steps. Stop, prepare, wear ihram, pray if appropriate, make intention, begin talbiyah. Keeping this sequence in mind simplifies everything. Time management around Miqat is also important. Allocating sufficient time for this stop prevents rushing. Even if the stop takes longer than expected, it is better to accept the delay than to proceed with doubt. The journey toward Makkah continues after Miqat, but the spiritual state begins here. Environmental awareness at Miqat is also part of discipline. Parking should be done properly, pathways respected, and crowd movement handled patiently. The Miqat area is shared by many, and calm behavior contributes to a better experience for everyone. After leaving Miqat, the road continues toward Makkah, but the mindset changes. The journey is no longer just about distance and traffic, it becomes an act of worship. Maintaining calm driving behavior, avoiding arguments, and staying focused align with the spirit of Ihram. In summary, the Miqat at Qarn al-Manazil or As-Sail al-Kabir is a non-negotiable and central part of the Riyadh to Makkah road journey. It must be approached with preparation, clarity, and calmness. Understanding its location, knowing when and how to prepare, and following the correct sequence removes confusion and stress. The Miqat is not an obstacle on the journey, it is the gateway that transforms travel into worship. Treating it with respect ensures that the remainder of the journey toward Makkah is entered with confidence, peace, and correct intention.
Download the app today. Lead a group chat here with exclusive travel deals. Booking.com, Booking.pl.